It's been almost 2 years since the absolutely essential Japanese crime drama beat-em-up Yakuza 0 was released in Japan, and now since it's finally hitting Western shores, I figured I'd do my part to make sure you don't miss one of the best games of the last 5 years. The Yakuza series is an immense franchise now, all of them boasting fierce combat, exhilarating heartwarming stories, and a girth of extra content on offer as you play part in the pleasures of Japanese nightlife. Instead of giving you a full review of Yakuza 0, a prequel game that lets you play the early adventures of the noble Kazuma Kiryu and Madman Goro Majima, a title I've had beaten via the Japanese version for about a year now, I figured I'd demonstrate the excitement and quality you can expect from the game by putting under the microscope one of my favourite levels it has to offer, the first main beat-em-up stage, the head office of the fierce Dojima family. Our stage is set in an economically lush 1980s Japan. At the start of the game, low-ranking Yakuza, Dojima family member Kazuma Kiryu is tasked with collecting a debt for a loan shark from a sorry punk. Unfortunately, after kicking his ass, the punk shows up dead the next morning, shot after Kazuma left. It's shortly revealed that high-ranking Dojima family member Kuze Daisaku was looking to frame Kazuma and get him sent to prison. Kuze wants Kazuma in jail so he can obtain information off our protagonist's currently imprisoned foster father that could lead to the acquisition of a plot of land that's very important for the Dojima family. Whoever in the family acquires the land first will get promoted, so Kuze's after it at any cost. Unfortunately, Kazuma, as a low-ranking Yakuza, can't go up against a higher-ranking member of the Yakuza, an unforgivable affront in the criminal community. So instead, Kazuma heads to see the head of the family, Dojima himself, at his offices to get excommunicated from the clan so he can take on Kuze without repercussion. Kuze and his crew head him off. Kuze wants Kazuma dead now, so he decides to kick him out of the Yakuza himself so he and his crew can take our protag out then and there. But that's exactly what Kazuma wants to hear. Because at that moment he's technically not part of the Yakuza anymore, he's free to kick everybody's ass. The way the Yakuza games work is that you get free reign to explore a district of a city, in the case of Yakuza 0, a district of Tokyo, and a district of Osaka. From there you can access story missions, side quests, and various activities, but from time to time you'll get pulled out of this open environment to take part in brutal linear beat-em-up levels, ones that harken back a bit to the classic brawlers of old. This time Kazuma has almost a whole Yakuza family on his ass ready to kill him, but a running trend in these games is that Kazuma doesn't take shit lying down. His heroic persistence to survive and defiance against smug high-ranking pricks is electrifying and gets you pumped to throw down for a serious brawl. Of course, when Kuze kicks Kazuma out of the Yakuza, he doesn't expect our lad of destruction to use that technicality to crush an entire building full of goons. But that's exactly what's about to happen, if you're up to the task. The first room is just filled to the brim with dudes and items to pummel them with. The Yakuza combat system works in conjunction with a mechanic called heat. The longer you can continue causing damage without taking hits, or later on through other means, like taunting for example, will raise the playable character's heat bar. The higher the level, the more brutal techniques can be performed with both your fists and weapons and objects in the environment. And they all raise the roof. It's just hard not to cheer when some of these go down. Consider heat a kind of style meter that rewards you with better attacks the better you're performing. In this room alone, Kazuma can hit punks with vases, chairs, tables, whacking them with ashtrays, shoving nails into dudes' mouths. You do not want to be caught in a room with Kazuma and a bunch of common household items. After trying to move up the building to confront Kuze and find Dojima, Kazuma keeps running into Kuze's top thug, who will get up after being defeated and attack Kazuma as he tries to enter the hallway. Luckily, you can turn the tables on his assault. After beating down a few more punks in the next hallway, a big dude tries to stop you with a chair. With the use of Kazuma's heat, he's gonna wish he hadn't. After reaching a kitchen room, once again the head punk leader mounts another attack. Dude just won't quit. As well as using heat moves with items around the environment, there can also be contextual moves based on where you currently are on a stage, so Kazuma can use high places to devastating effect. Unfortunately, after climbing the staircase, a locked door is preventing further progress. So, what's the plan? Fuck yeah. You know a bathroom is going to be one hell of a place for a smackdown. There is no stopping Kazuma on this rampage, all of this happening while a sick as hell track plays in the background. Somehow the boss lackey makes another return, this time with a knife, the cowardly punk. A weapon that can have devastating consequences on Kazuma, but this time we're taking him out for good. Oh, you do not get much more destroyed than that. Finally, Kazuma reaches the top of the building where Kuze is waiting for him. A heavy track kicks in, so you know it's time to go to town. What ensues is a sadistic boss fight where landing the enemy on the ground is key to racking up a steady combo and keeping that heat flowing. A lot of the time, cinematic attacks can be a buzzkill in beat-em-ups, lasting too long, being a bit too flashy with no substance, but they're delivered with such impact in Yakuza and are brief and punchy enough, melding into gameplay so quickly that you can't help but get a rush out of them. The combat can be tough as nails, so when swung into a brutal heat move, there's a certain release in seeing the payoff, a climax to your last barrage of attacks. Not to mention, pulling off the best possible heat move animations takes a lot of skill, since various conditions need to be met in the heat of gameplay to trigger the real ballbusters. I think what brings out the excitement and thrill of these moves is that in Yakuza, instead of dealing with superpowered characters, we're dealing with regular dudes. So even though the combat is over the top, there's an extra bit of grit and catharsis to seeing a brutal blow hit an opponent. They're just choreographed so well, it's hard not to go, oh shit! The characters in Yakuza aren't positioned as carefree, superpowered guys, so there's a real sense of danger and peril when they enter a fight. It's cathartic as hell to see them rise to the challenge and overcome the struggle in such a spectacular fashion. After taking this guy out, Dojima himself shows up. Embarrassed by Kuze's behavior, extraditing Kazuma from the clan without the boss's consent and attempting to murder a now non-Yakuza, Kuze has to take part in ritual punishment, cutting off his own pinky finger. Seeing this character who set you up face this brutal hazing, oh, it feels good. Just the way Kuze looks up at Kazuma here, you can tell he despises our protagonist with all his might. You know this guy is going to come back for more throughout the game and be a bitter rival. Dojima lets Kazuma go, but his trials in this saga are of course far from over. And this is only the beginning of Yakuza 0. From here on, you'll switch back and forth between Kazuma and the other protagonist Majima as they get embroiled in a thick and juicy crime narrative. I highly recommend picking up this title. And now that it's translated into English, there's no excuse. Obviously, you'll get more out of the story if you've played the other games first and are more acquainted with this cast of characters. These are younger, rather different versions of leads from a long-running series, so seeing how they differ in the past and how they went on to become who they are later is part of the fun, as well as seeing other characters who are older in the previous games in their prime here kicking ass. I recommend playing the game on hard if you've taken part in a lot of action games. It really adds to the intensity of the fights and the struggles each character has to get themselves out of. This title is well worth the price tag too. You can spend hours just hanging out in these beautifully recreated 80s cities, going to arcades, playing sports, gambling on illicit wrestling, dating girls, watching girls. It's all here. Best of all is that everything you do ties into each other. Both playable characters have a major side operation they can partake in that involves controlling pieces of real estate and hiring employees, whether it be for Kazuma's land control or Majima's host clubs. By partaking in smaller, often hilarious side quests, you can gain assets like personnel and land that tie into those bigger operations. And by completing those bigger operations, you can gain more moves and abilities for the satisfying combat you'll be smashing dudes up in. There are so many moves and styles to dig into here. All of this running with smooth 1080p 60 FPS gameplay. It's a spoil of riches, and if what you've seen here piques your interest, I implore you to give Yakuza 0 a try. I truly believe it's the best game of this generation I've played, and I don't say something like that lightly. On the flip side, if you're already a fan of Yakuza 0, consider sharing this video with a friend who may not be familiar with it to bring it to their attention. This series deserves more exposure, and there's no better time to get into it than now.